Hey guys, you know the story. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Well, this is another example of that. First, go check out my friends over at Falco Holsters, falcoholsters.com. You'll see a holster that we partnered together with to make. That's a really cool inside waistband concealable holster. We're also partnering up to give away one of these holsters along with a SIG P365 Macro X. Go check them out again, falcoholsters.com, falcoholsters.com. The U.S. Supreme Court has granted certiorari in a federal case that could majorly curtail the power of federal agencies like the ATF. Without going into a bunch of details that you guys likely won't appreciate or care for, a group of commercial fishermen have challenged the U.S. government using Chevron deference in any cases. You guys might remember we've talked about Chevron deference in the past several times. What it essentially does is any of the unelected bureaucratic organizations in the United States, if there's any kind of ambiguity in the rulings that they are trying to put out, change, adjust, modify, if there's any kind of ambiguity, the tie goes to the runner, meaning the runner in this case is those bureaucratic agencies. In other words, if you design by design, let's say the ATF by design, designs some kind of a ruling that's ambiguous, well, since the courts don't understand firearms at the level that the ATF is supposed to, I'm not implying that they do, they're supposed to. We obviously understand firearms more than the ATF does, the average citizen does. But if for some reason they have put that ruling out there, the courts are like, we don't understand this, let's defer to the ATF. Let the ATF be the tie goes to the runner in that case. So they're always going to win these cases because of Chevron deference. By challenging this is going to upend a lot of things like stabilizing braces, like the bump stock, like a number of other things. In other words, when you present clear facts and the ATF creates this gray area, in fact, we've seen some more recent federal court rulings kind of going down this same line, claiming that the ATF is purposely making these things ambiguous. But this has a chance to upend a lot of things because the ATF and a lot of other federal agencies, I'm not just picking on the ATF, DEQ, DEA, a lot of these guys are purposely making up rulings that are very confusing and then backing up and going, well, we're the experts, so we're going to go with what we wanted to say or what we want the outcome to be. They're not telling you what they fully intended. They're just telling you what they want the outcome to be. Therefore, they're using Chevron deference to achieve that goal. If that gets struck down and taken away, we're going to see the ATF have to work a little bit harder and actually use facts and actually not make things that are so ambiguous and confusing that people are left scratching their heads all day long. Now, how good of a thing is this? Well, it's really good in the long term, but it doesn't mean anything in the short term. In other words, it's going to have to go through the court system. So we're talking about possibly a year before we see anything from this, depending on the outcome of this particular case. Of course, that has to be ruled upon first. One thing I would like to point out is that Congress at some point has got to do their jobs. We are constantly seeing things that have to go through the court system that should have never been there in the first place. Congress should be striking all this stuff down. And I'm not just talking about the ATF. I'm talking specifically about the ATF in a lot of cases. But in many cases, it's outside the ATF. It's these unelected bureaucrats who are making quasi-law by changing rules and hiding under the guise that Congress is supposedly forfeiting any kind of real work that they want to do in giving these bureaucratic agencies. And that's not right. I would like to see just one congressman put some kind of a bill forward. And I know that there's already rules in place that if a law is unconstitutional, it cannot pass. I understand that. But what I would like to see is some kind of a bill put out there that would make it a requirement, a test, if you will, that anytime any kind of a ruling or a law has to pass a constitutional test. Yeah, they should already be doing this, but they're not. I would like to see a step one, and step one always be, is this constitutional? And we have to determine and prove that it's constitutional before it ever goes from the House to the Senate. It can't leave the House and go to the Senate if it can't pass that test. This would also apply to any bureaucracies like the ATF. If it can't get past step one, get rid of it. It's trash, burnt, dumpster. Get rid of it. But our politicians don't have the guts or the balls to do that. And that's one of our biggest problems in this country right now.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.